Scott Laughlin. I was out for a very long walk this morning, enjoying your fine program, enjoying your show. Dude, I got tingles. It's here. It's here, Game 7. What do you think, man?
Well, I think tonight, Rod, has got the potential to be maybe the most important National Hockey League game during our lifetime. It's that integral to what the league has built. I think that for each side, there are massive ramifications. For Edmonton, it could be the greatest comeback in Stanley Cup playoff history. For the Florida Panthers, it might be the greatest collapse in the history of the Stanley Cup playoffs, too. So it could go either way. I'm as intrigued as anybody to see how it's going to get started tonight, because I think for the home side, especially, Rod, as you know, to get that crowd going, I think that they need to score that first goal tonight. Get off with some momentum to really get the crowd thinking that good things could be coming.
The first goal is massive, massive, massive. And by the way, the Cats and Bolts podcast will be there. I won't, but my co-host Serena will. She's cheering for the Oilers. How much stock, if any, are you putting into analytics and the way this series has gone? First goal, last goal, special teams, or are you like Kachuk or our guy Billy Lindsay? They've both said it doesn't matter how we got here. It's about one game. Where are you on that?
Well, I think if you're an Oilers fan right now, you're saying, yeah, I like all the numbers. All the numbers are on our side. If you're a Panthers fan, you're saying, you know what? No, it comes down to one game. Forget about what's happened here in the past three. Let's get it back and get back to where we were earlier in the series. Now, to get back to where they were earlier in the series, clearly Bob's going to have to be better than Stuart Skinner, which hasn't been the case here in the last three games. I think you're going to have the bottom six guys for the Panthers step up, like the Oilers' bottom six guys who stepped up here in the past three games. And you're going to need to have a Sam Reinhart sighting. Like, we know that a week from now, he's got the potential to hit the open market. If the Panthers want to get him signed, they'll try and get him signed. But the reality is he's got one goal so far in the first six games. I think that's got to change for the Panthers to have an opportunity tonight, Rod.
I think we can all agree home ice means nothing, especially when you consider the last three Game 7s the road team won in this. I don't know why it means nothing, but it means nothing.
Yeah, well, I mean, lately that's been the case, but in history, I mean, this is the 18th Game 7 in Stanley Cup final history, and the home team's gone 12-5. So there are some numbers to back up the fact that the home team can have some success. But for the Panthers, we just touched on it, right? You have to play the game from in front. You can't continue to chase against a team like the Oilers and against a goaltender that's playing with as much confidence right now as Stuart Skinner is, too. And you want to read more into the numbers, too, Rod. Games 4 through 7, we know what the numbers tell us about Stuart Skinner. He's a much different goaltender than he usually is the first three games of a series, right? So give him credit. We wonder about Canada's goalie for the Four Nations and for the Olympics. Maybe it's this guy still, number 74 for Edmonton, because he seems to have an ability to come up big when it matters most.
Isn't it fun to talk about? And when we talked about who was Canada's next goalie, nobody talked about Stuart Skinner. And now you can't think about anybody else but Stuart Skinner. You know, and we didn't really see Bob going. I didn't see Bob going this way, which, by the way, I guess I have stopped following the news conferences and reading. And I just want to watch the games. I don't really care what they're saying. But I guess the Panthers said yesterday they're not putting it on Bob that they've lost the last three. And I'm like, well, I hope not. But again, I'm a goalie guy and I get defensive. What do you see their collapse over that? Because I say they took their foot off the gas. They got ahead of themselves in Game 4. All the families went up to Edmonton expecting to party. And, they didn't nail it down. And now I'm not sure they can stop the Oilers train. That's why I'm 50-50 on tonight. But where did this change? How did it change in your mind?
Well, you know, understandably, Rod, it looks like they're playing tight, right? It looks like they realized, by the way, we're flying our families out to Edmonton. And we're going to have a big party afterwards. And all of a sudden it didn't happen. And you start to get more and more tight as the series goes along. And now you're right. I mean, can they loosen up for a game number 7? A lot of that will have to do with what we talked about with regards to score the first goal, getting the crowd into it. Because if the Panthers give up that first goal tonight, Amarant Bank Arena is going to wonder, boy, woe's me. I mean, this is just not meant to be. We're going to go down as the team that had the biggest collapse in the history of the Stanley Cup playoffs. I think tonight, if the Panthers don't win, and by the way, Rod, as you heard me say this morning, I don't wish this on anyone, let alone Paul Maurice, who we're all big fans of. I don't want to be in his shoes if they lose tonight and squander a 3-0 series lead, I don't want to have him live with this for the rest of his career, for the rest of his life, wondering about what happened in that historic moment where you blew the series lead. I just think at this point, you've got a chance to rectify it. If you win tonight, nobody talks about blowing a 3-0 series lead. If you lose tonight, it's talked about forever. And that's really, again, the plus and minus, the wins and the losses when it comes to this stage of the game on this stage.
So many people have said to me, how are the Panthers fans going to react if they blow this? I'm like, they're going to turn on him. And over the last 24, 48 hours, they're already turning on Paul. They're already talking about firing him. Like, it's America, man. Did you win or did you lose? End of story, man. And I don't want to see it go this way either. I'm with you. But the other thing is, you said you picked them to win the Stanley Cup going in, so you're not going away from that now. But I think you were like the only guy on your crew, because everybody else was picking the orders. Am I right?
Yeah, I think most people believe in momentum. We've discussed this ad nauseum, right? Like, does momentum mean anything at this stage of the game? Well, it didn't mean much to the Panthers come game 4. Has it meant anything to the Oilers? Maybe. I tend to think that each game, as we've talked about, Rod, is its own specific chapter in a big Stanley Cup playoff book. Now you get to that final chapter. And now we wonder who writes that final chapter and who gets the last word, who gets to write that last line. We'll find out in a couple of hours' time. But to your point, as you know, I predicted the Florida Panthers would win the Stanley Cup. I'm not going to talk about the team that they were going to beat in the Stanley Cup final. We'll let that Paul Maurice Bowl live for another day. But the reality is I picked the Panthers before the playoffs began. I'm going to stay with the Panthers, whether it's going down with a ship or whether it's just being smarter than maybe I look. Either way, I mean, I'm looking forward to a big Game 7 tonight. No question. Let's drop the puck.
Absolutely. You did say Jets-Panthers, I recall. On this show, by the way. I do remember that. But, yeah, it's interesting, too, by the way, that – and we'll wind this up here right away, but I saw Pierre LeBrun saying first time in his 30 years covering the NHL that he's going right from the Stanley Cup to the draft. I mean – where I am, and I'm out here calling baseball, by the way, in the Western Canadian Baseball League, and everybody's complaining they want the hockey season to be over. Well, I think we both know each other. We could go year-round. I'd be okay. But is this too long in your mind? Like, I don't know. Has this been too long of a hockey season?
Yeah, it's interesting.
Ooh, did we lose him? Okay, we got you back. We got you back.
Sorry about that.
Start again.
Yeah. I'm really excited about the week to come. At the same time, would I like to see it go back to the way it used to be, where like the New York Islanders are winning the Cup on May 14th? I think that's the way it probably should be when it's all said and done. I'm not sure if the genie's too far to the bottle at this point to turn back time, but I'm really excited about the week to come, of course, with the draft coming up and the Hall of Fame class announced tomorrow, the Board of Governors meetings, the NHL awards, the draft, the free agent frenzy a week from now. So it'll be a lot of fun. There's no question. Business is indeed about to pick up in and around the National Hockey League.
Well, you don't ever really get a break, but I appreciate all you do. Enjoy the game tonight, Scott. Thanks for fitting us in today, and we'll be in touch down the road.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me as always, Rod.
SiriusXM, NHL Radio, Scott Laughlin, and yeah, let's drop the puck.